Okay, it now being 12:30, I hereby call the September 8th, 2025 meeting of the Plympton Board of Selectmen to order. This meeting is being recorded for the public viewing by Area 58. The recording is not considered a official record of the board. The approved minutes of the meeting will serve as the official record of the proceedings. All right, and our first agenda item for this afternoon is an update from Matt All on the SRO program.
Great. I don't really know exactly where you want me to stand, but I think I have a loud enough voice I can probably...
Yeah, there's a microphone up there, so on the front of the DS here, if you want to come up that way.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just wanted to do a quick rundown of just some updates on the school resource program down at the Dennett. So anybody that wasn't informed or up to speed, we had switched last year over to a LEAD program as opposed to the DARE program. DARE served long standing down at the Dennett Elementary School for a while, and myself, Sergeant Valente, and a few other local chiefs and departments had started looking into different avenues and opportunities for us to integrate with the kids. I know Mr. Smith was down there as a school resource officer many years, and even to start branching off on his own outside of DARE, it's kind of what we tail-ended on and continue to do under the LEAD program. LEAD had been around since like 1993. Great, but we just want to do something a little bit more, holistic. So, certain different things that we really liked about the LEAD program is, again, the drug aspect of it. It was a lot of like cyberbullying, bullying, domestic violence awareness, and things like, when to call 911. There's a lot of different components that we really, really liked. For that kind of continuity, for the kids to be able to come and have like a resource, officer down there to speak about. So we'd hosted some trainings here with LEAD. I actually spoke with the principals that created LEAD at the IACP, it's International Association of Chiefs of Police, back in Boston last year, and I just fell in love with the program. I thought it was fantastic. They provide programs, 10-week program of just the educational component, the books. We do testing on it. We have regular meetings every single week with the students over and above that 10-week program. And other just different key aspects I'll touch upon real quick. I have a bunch of literature. I'm not going to take everyone's time, but just some key responsibilities to the position itself down at the Dennett Elementary. School safety, right? That's the first concern. I have 3 children. I know it's very near and dear to me. When I took on this position just over 3 years ago, is one of the biggest things that I wanted to make sure that we still honed in on. Again, tail ending to what Mr. Smith had done down there, and having somebody at the school was very important for me. So again, it's not just the drug education, it's having an officer down there for safety and security, conduct daily checks, ingress, egress, doors, access, student engagement. I hear time and time again, I got my own testimonies that I could read. I don't want to go down that. If anyone wants to request it from me, they can come get that from me. The student engagement, I often would hear that parents just love the fact that our officers would be out there during recess, during the lunch break, some of the vulnerable times when you'd see, and I hate to go down the path of like incidents that occurred, nationwide as some of those vulnerability times. Having our officers out there, as corny as it might sound, is engaged in a monkey bar conversation or a kickball, game, or the swing sets with them. I love that interaction. And hopefully the community who voted on this a few years ago are still, very much appreciative of what we do. Classroom education, obviously, that goes without saying. I kind of hit on that already. Student support is a big one that Sergeant Nate Valente, hit upon, and I don't think about that, but obviously there's IEPs and a lot of educational components down there, and us to be able to help mitigate that. And be there to be able to support like the teachers and staff when there's some issues going on or questions they might have, and collaborate with the educators. It's paramount in my eyes. Again, emergency preparedness, we do this often. Officer Scott DiNicola, Sergeant Nate Valente, a few of my operators that are really well versed in like the tactics down there. So you have we do a regular school safety drills. We do our lockdown drills. We do active shooter drills, and again, I know that's tough for people to hear because unfortunately that is the society that we live in now. We do those drills, quite often. I believe, Sergeant, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Officer DiNicola just meet recently with the school about lockdown and active shooter drills?
Yeah, we have a meeting at the beginning of every year.
Yeah.
To talk about that. Yeah.
Community liaison, anybody that saw I think it was the meeting, again, Mr. Smith, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was on the 18th of August, we appropriated opioid money. So like things that we do our national night out. We didn't do it this year, but we have a fall touch a truck event that we want to do to kind of change it up a little bit. One thing I always say about Plympton Police Department specifically, it's very community, and we are the same way. We have our doors open. I love the fact that we have a van now that was wrapped, that was afforded by the board from the opioid settlement that we have. Kids love it. It's a van, it says Plympton Police on it, SRO vehicle. Now that's utilized to and from in any of our community engagement. It's just great, good visibility. The kids see it, they love it. We thought about doing some other things, but for right now, it works. It's a cool little minivan. You'll see it riding around town. Just other things that go along with it. You got the mentorship and the counseling, and then just the department connection. Again, 3 years ago, one of the biggest things I spoke with Mr. Venuto about and Silver Lake Regional is that I wanted to make sure that we had a hand in protecting the kids. Again, I'm a father of 3, and I know when I pick up my kids and I see a school resource officer there, I just inherently feel safe, and just knowing what the community that I live in provides, it was one big thing I want to be able to provide for our students here. I think, the few hundred that are in that school, I think about it constantly, again, just being a father. So I know that's long-winded. I'm not going to get into the semantics of everything with LEAD program. And again, I do have just I've spoken with the Silver Lake School Committee, I've spoken with the Dennett School Committee. I have letters of endorsement from them. They're just very happy overall of what we've done. We now have Officer Tim Johnson, who's down at the school. He's driving the minivan down there every day. He's starting, I just spoke with Sergeant Wednesday on the way over here. He's starting his training, the program training for 10 weeks with the catalog that's afforded from DARE, I think the end of October-ish. So that's going to be starting up. But again, we have Bureau of Criminal Investigation. They come in, they talk to the students, do some forensic stuff with them. It's great. Dana Smith actually started that program for us, and again, we piggybacked on that. So we still continue to compound on that and bring in the DA's office and some of these other outfits to kind of speak with our students or the community students. So it's kind of like the big, quick, dirty overview. But does anybody have any questions about the program?
I did one question, yes. So the 10-week program is a training class for Officer Johnson to attend, or?
Nope, that's actually for the students. So basically they get a booklet provided, worksheets. That's not the weekly thing that we do. There's a specific 10-week program that they follow through, and basically it's a folder binder, the educational component. And he does do his annual training though, to answer your question.
Matt, what's the age group? What's the 2 classes or 3 classes he's going to be teaching this 10-week?
5th and 6th grade.
5th and 6th?
Yep. I think we had looked into, I think this LEAD, correct me if I'm wrong, they have a component for the younger ages as well, but I think when we spoke with Peter and Jason, Silver Lake and Dennett School Committee, I think we wanted to really tailor it to the 5th and 6th graders. But again, I know Officer Johnson does have regular meetings with the kids and just kind of tailors the conversation accordingly. But as far as the program itself, 5th and 6th grade.
I have a question.
Sure.
Since we've had the SRO in the school, there's been 4, maybe 5
Yep.
different officers. Are we training each of them as an SRO? Is there specific training for that? And
Yep.
are we,
Yeah.
is Officer Tim Johnson staying in there, or is?
Yes. So obviously we took on the position. It was a new thing. I think school pays, CASA, the PTO, parents came forward and asked school committee. School committee then in return asked me. It's kind of the 11th hour before town meeting a couple years ago. So we put it together. I spoke with the school and what we could do to tailor that program. Then obviously the way that it fell town meeting is we had to find somebody to do it. Love everyone in my offices. They're all fantastic. It takes a very special person. Again, we can attest to that. Somebody in the room that did it. So it takes a very special person to want to be down there and have that be their career or their career path. So no doubt, trials and tribulations. We've had some turnover down there. I can honestly say, and I won't even look at him, I'll let him say it, but Tim Johnson is round peg, round hole, quite honestly. Loves it down there, loves the kids, eats and breathes the SRO program. Speaking with the principal and staff down there, we just met with him the other day, just absolutely love him down there. So I think he's there for the long haul. He wants to ride his career out in that said position. As far as the other officers, It's tough because, again, the town came and said that they have a need and they have a want and a desire for me to do this. So I had to take an officer essentially off the road and put him in there. So it takes a very special person to do it. We had turnover down there, there's no doubt about it. But I can honestly say, and we've gone through our own checks and balance, I think 3 days that we've missed it down there. And I can honestly own that we didn't have an officer down there. Whether there be some fallout from an officer that doesn't want to do it anymore and gives me like, hey, I get 2 weeks and I got to get out of there. Well, then it's an ad hoc decision, quick decision for me to find somebody else that can replace them. So I never wanted there to be a gap, down at the Dennett. So we had to train them every single time. That's a cost, there's no doubt about it, but it's mandated. We have to have an officer trained down there. I wasn't gonna put somebody down there that wasn't properly trained because I know there was a lot of conversations that were being had is the officer trained? Every single time, Sergeant Valente and I had to go back to the books and say, where's the next training? How do we get somebody trained in there? Because I didn't want somebody that wasn't capable of training down there. But again, you have to also have the right temperament. Love everyone in my offices. They all did a great job temporarily down there. I think we finally found round peg, round hole with Tim Johnson. So we couldn't be more thrilled, I don't think. And again, I have letters from parents stating as such too. So we're excited. We really am.
Yeah, he does an excellent job, he really does.
Yeah,
Every time I've come in that school, he's all smiles, and
Yeah.
kids love him.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, like I said, it takes a very, very special officer. We're not pulling off the road. He's specific to that location down there. And it alleviates any pressure from my own officers that are out there just doing the regular course of duties, responding to calls or whatever. It no longer peels that away, on the operations side over there. So it's nice. It's nice to have that.
And Matt, you mentioned about safety training. Has there been any Alice training in the interim or anything like that?
Well, we have a grant out right now to try to get some additional training. That comes back. We have a lot of additional training that we're going to be able to offer to Officer Johnson as of right now. I believe Officer Dina Cole, I think you may be alert trained. Other than that, I believe that would be it.
What is Alice doing?
So Alice training is actually proprietary. It stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. And that's a program that I actually instituted years ago when I was in the school resource officer position. And what it is, it's a proactive point where the teachers and personnel are actually empowered to make decisions when there is an emergency on any level. And that's how they can interact with law enforcement and also to be ahead of that should a bad thing happen, because obviously in a force multiplier model, you have more teachers than you'd have officers in that school. There's no way you can have the same amount of number of people there. So it actually reinforces the empowerment piece and also allows them to make decisions on a tactical basis, trained by trained Alice instructors. And it works very well in that system. It's actually nationwide right now, so it actually is one of many programs. There are other programs that are actually out there, but I was just curious as far as anything proactive from within with the personnel inside, if anything's being done with those folks as well.
And I appreciate you bringing it up. Actually, it's a conversation I had with Peter multiple times. It's the balance of the finances and also the balance of staffing down there, right? What the temperament is for that and the appetite for that program. So what I spoke with Peter at the beginning of this year was the fact that there has been some turnover down there. There has been some changes. This might be the right time for us to implement, which goes back to the reason I turn my head to Sergeant Valente is then it's also the funding source and for us to be able to actually do that. So I think hopefully the stars align. I can't say enough about the magic that he does with our grants and opportunities for that. So hopefully we get some money in, and now Peter with the change in his personnel and staffing down there, I think it's going to be a perfect match once we get the money in to do it. So. But I appreciate you bringing it up.
I have one more question, sorry.
Sure, yeah, go for it. I got all day.
Obviously, I don't, but, I obviously am, pro-police, and I'm happy to have someone down there because, the more police around, the safer everybody is. That being said, my holdup is that for a small town and our taxes are already high, it's, another expense that we have having an officer there full-time.
Sure.
And what are they doing all day in an elementary school? Like a high school or a middle school situation is different because, the kids are a little older, they're dealing with a, different situation.
Right.
So basically, I guess I'm asking, exactly what does a day look like for the school resource officer? Because every time I kind of go into school, he's in the office with the computer. I haven't seen him at drop-off or, pick up, so I'm just kind of wondering, what do they do besides the lead program, the 10-week program? What else is he doing there?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think to further kind of hit home is the fact that there's no doubt there's no doubt, and I'm not going to try to sugarcoat. It's a very tough position, especially in an elementary school. Like you said, it's not older demographic. We're not dealing with what a Silver Lake, even though we do collaborate with a Silver Lake with the high school level, and we do our monthly meetings up, with them. It's a different level of policing. It's a lot more. You're at their level. You're involved in conversations throughout. You're there for like the recesses. You're there for so it's day to day. Again, I jokingly say it, like I've had more conversations with Peter and the staff down there that he's picked up a broom and helped up, pick up things that have happened down there, and just be like a conduit when there's issues going on with students that might be on an IEP or some mental stresses or whatever. Speak with them outside of the classroom. So yeah, granted, you might see like the initial he's in the office having a conversation, but I know because we have access to the cameras, and again I can have Sergeant Valente speak upon it, but he's up and down the hallways, checking the doors, again, ingress, egress. We don't have a volume of what you would have at a high school level, but again, the town came to me 3 years ago to facilitate this position, just over 2 years ago, excuse me, to facilitate the position. We've done it per that request. So I don't know how to say it any other way than I have 3 kids, but I couldn't do the position. It takes someone very special to fulfill that and want to be down there. Again, Sergeant Valente, if you have anything you want to add in on that, his day-to-day, what he's doing. And again, I only turned in because he is a liaison down there, so he does speak with them on the regular too.
Sure, but one of the bigger components is the community connection, the connection with the police department itself. So we have things happen at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning that involve these students, things that happen at home or things that happen with family members, whether it's a death of a family member, an arrest of a family member, maybe it's just an incident, and we actually have the ability to then take that information and be ready for them when they come into school next day, if they come into school next day, to be able to have whatever support's available for them with reason. We have limitations on what we can tell the staff, but we can let them know, hey, there was an instance last night, we're gonna be keeping an eye on this kid, he might have a rough day. Those kind of applications are, immensely helpful for the kids themselves. On top of that, just the school security, touching the doors, making sure the doors are good, but also making sure they're functioning, checking vehicles that are in the parking lot for too long, checking people that are coming up to the door that want to come in and speak with somebody. Maybe a parent wants to meet with a kid, and there's a lot of these interactions that probably shouldn't be happening with administration, and it's great to have a law enforcement authority on scene, if not to intervene, but at least even just to give a little bit of hey, this is okay, this isn't okay, we should get involved in this, and you guys should handle this. The support for the staff is just as important as the support for the kids. I can say there was times that I was looking saying, hey, what can I help with? But they always had something to do. There was always something to have. So and so he's got to get out of class for 20 minutes. He's having a rough day. Can you take him in the gym and throw the ball around and have a conversation with him for a little bit? And that in and of itself is just one of the more rewarding pieces. When you get that one-on-one with the kid, you're only going to get that one-on-one if you're there in the building when the school's going on and those things are happening.
And it's good perspective, again, because Sergeant Valente was one of the officers that did fulfill that need when we had some transition of some people down there, so he has a really good, take on, what transpired. Again, it's just bridging that community. It really truly is, and I don't know how else to say it other than that. We're there to facilitate that, and again, even like some of the testimony from some of the parents and stuff like that, what's overly written in some of these write-ups here is it's like the old adage, I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it and have there be a delay. And I don't want to open up the can of how many instances that we're dealing with. I think if you look at like an FBI statistic, I think there was like over 2,000 or 2,600 calls to service for mass shootings, school incidents, and things like that are involved. Like it's incredible what's going on out there. So, I'm going to facilitate it as long as the town is asking me to do it, and I'm going to be there to facilitate that as much. And again, having the endorsement of Silver Lake Regional, Dennett, and then the community asking for it, I'm going to facilitate that. It's just what I'm going to do. Until that changes, we're down there. We're down there supporting the school.
Any other discussion?
Do we mention them?
Do you want to mention the support letters?
Yeah. I just think it's.
Sure. So,
I think it's important that we mention for the record that we have letters of support from the vice chair and the chair of the Plympton School Committee expressing their support. We have a letter from Principal Benito expressing his support. And this is in addition to what Chief All has already mentioned. And then we do have a very positive letter. Again, recognizing my associate here to my left, but also the program itself from Mr. McPherson, a resident. So I think that it's clear that the community is in support of this program, and we should do what we can to continue. I just wanted to state that for the record.
and we have copies if anybody wants them.
I appreciate that. You know, to further touch upon that, Nate, and I'll end it on this so you guys can go on with your agenda, is it's, and I'm not gonna look at Dana, but I know he's gonna smile when I say it, it's one of the most rewarding things that I can go down there and I can give a high five to a kid on shift when I'm working and go down there and just see the smile on their face and like the positivity that I know that our officers bring, regardless of 5 people or 500 people that are brought through there. I would never put somebody down that would do a disservice to this community or our own department. So it means something to me when I can go down there, I can high five a kid and they remember, hey, that's Chief Matt, or that's Matt, or that's Chief All. And then we sit in, we have lunch and whatever. That's, as a parent, that means something to me, and hopefully the community still, you know, endorses this program for many, many years down the road, because we'll be there to facilitate. So thank you very much for your time, I appreciate it.
Thanks for the.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. All right. So now we are moving on to the town website upgrades and the next steps with that same program.
So I've been coordinating with Brian Beza. He's our conservation agent and also our webmaster. We are going to have to do a basic website migration over the next year or so. The platform is changing. We can get that done without any change to our annual cost, but the cost will be going up in years 2 and 3. And that will apply to all the communities. A majority of cities and towns in Massachusetts use the Civic CMS platform for their websites. It's what the majority of the town and city clerks are familiar with as far as like posting meeting agendas and that sort of thing. So the price is going up, I guess, like everything. But what we were specifically looking into was making the website more user-friendly for mobile users. And also, we had been informed that coming down the line in May of 2027, we're going to be required to have certain ADA compliant features on the website. And that's being rolled out in a program called Audio Eye, which is a feature that will be available on all of the websites for all of the municipalities in Massachusetts. So we do have a few options. If we don't do anything and just go through with the basic migration to the updated platform, the cost will stay the same for the next year. And then in years 2 and 3, as is the same with all of their other customers, that will be going up. If we wanted to do the ADA compliance piece now, they would give us a break on the first year. So that, to roll out the Audio Eye program, which is for the ADA compliance, which we need to do by May of 2027, it's roughly $2,500 a year additional. If we wanted to pursue it sooner than that, they would cut the first year price to $1,250. We don't need to decide immediately, but it's something to think about as far as like budget prep and that sort of thing. If we want to see if they'll hold that discounted rate for us, maybe until after we get through town meeting, and we can try to budget for it then. I did send the board members a link to just some standard design examples. We don't really need an official vote on any of this, but I just wanted to bring it forward because it's something that Brian and I have been working on. He's done a fantastic job for us as far as gathering the information. I've had him go back to those people countless times and be like, well, what if we do this and not that? With the upgrade to the new platform that's happening for all of them, It should be more mobile user friendly, but it sounds like if we were to adopt the audio eye feature quicker, that they could do even more in that regard, because it's kind of like what the finished product will need to be for all of them by May of 2027. So the board definitely has some decisions to make. I don't feel like the 1,250 is necessarily make or break, but I think overall, I wanted to bring it forward rather than, give you some time to discuss.
Have we had any complaints from residents or users that they are unable to access the website and would be in need of that service?
So no complaints thus far regarding ADA features whatsoever. We have had complaints from people for many years now about it not being mobile friendly. If you look at it from a desktop computer or even a laptop, it's very user friendly. Everything pops up where it should, and it's very intuitive. But when you look at it from your phone, it changes, obviously, the menu style, and it's not as intuitive where you would need to click to access simple things like what's the phone number for the highway department, like very basic things. You do have to search around for them, and it's not very friendly.
And do we get any sort of like county packaging pricing with, you mentioned that the majority of cities and towns in the state, and I noticed that the proposal that they said referenced the fact that we are part of Plymouth County.
Right.
So do we get a discount because of that, along with the other towns in Plymouth
So
County?
no, not specifically, but that's something that I could definitely pursue. I could reach out both to Plymouth County and to Civic CMS and see if they could work on package pricing. The county does offer that with certain vendors. Like they'll say like, oh, if the highway department wants to be on a list for salt, like
Right.
this is the regional price that we're getting. Almost like the state bid list. So I can definitely pursue that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to make any decisions today. I just wanted to bring it forward because we've been talking about it for a while, and I wanted you to know that we've compiled some information.
On the ADA piece, we're going to have to do this by May 2027 anyway. So
Correct.
it's something we're not going to avoid anyway, as far as that
Correct.
goes. So that's one of the things we have to take in consideration as well, too, so.
Okay.
All right. Any comments, Mr. Russo? Concerns?
No comments or concerns. Would love for it to be easier in any way. Really enjoyed Central Standard 4, which you had asked about, the different styles.
I like that one too, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that was the first one
It's
that jumped out.
cleanest,
Yeah.
simplest, and it's kind of the softest. It doesn't jump out at you. And I think
Easiest to
it'd be good.
negotiate.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
And then,
Make a
I
note
mean,
for
the
that.
bigger level, long-time concern and continued concern is hopefully what this will do, encourage people to maybe go to the website first when they're looking for information, rather than social media and the like. And so this may be an entree to really push that we have a new, clean website and worth attending.
Mr. Wallace?
How much is the admission cost of this year?
For the audio eye feature, the overall website, it's roughly $3,000 a year for them to host the website. And
What's it supposed to go up to?
so we don't have very specific pricing. They did mention possibly like a 5% increase. They have not set their pricing yet for fiscal '27 and fiscal '28. But they did say it would be projected to go up because it's going to be a different platform that they're hosting all of these sites from. But we should be locked in for at least a year with the roughly $3,000 that we've been paying thus far.
And that's just hosting, that's not design work or anything like that.
They'll-
That's strictly getting it on the web.
It's getting it on the web, but they will implement one of the designs that I mentioned.
Right,
But it's their
one of their
basic.
templates, but as far
Yes,
as
it's not customized.
Right, but as far as maintenance and whatnot, Brian would still be doing, or Bree or whoever would still be doing that.
Brian would still, yes.
Any other questions or concerns? All right, moving on. So we have the townhouse and old townhouse maintenance.
So regarding the old townhouse first, I have sent another correspondence to the tree warden, inquiring about the stumps that were left behind from the tree work that they did. So I'm looking to get an answer on that, hopefully. Rob Furlot and I did go out there not that long ago when we were dealing with another issue at that building. And the stumps are too large for any of his equipment to effectively manage. So we're looking to get pricing or perhaps see if the tree warden could make some arrangements for us, because that's going to look really awful once the vegetation goes away. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we did have the survey of the property done. And we were going to, I believe at last check, we were considering getting pricing for fencing and everything. I did reach out to a couple places. I only got one response so far, and it was that this was still the height of their busy time, so to inquire again in the fall, and they can give us a price and see if they're able to do something before the ground freezes. So more to come on that. As far as the regular townhouse, just so that everybody's aware, who might be watching or here today, out of an abundance of caution, the Board of Health has elected to coordinate some testing in the basement here. They want to ensure that we don't have any issues, moisture-related or otherwise. And then if it does turn out that we have any problems, they will be prescribing some sort of remediation for whatever might be discovered. In the meantime, the basement was largely being utilized by the fire department for storage of medical supplies and by the planning board. We have been in touch with both of those entities. The fire department has already safely extracted their medical supplies, and the police department graciously accommodated them with some storage space. And we've also been in touch with the planning board. They have been told that they can temporarily keep files in an upstairs conference room. As far as the bulk of their files, though, they do not exhibit any physical signs of damage currently, but they are eager to get those files out of there. I corresponded back and forth with a member of the board over the weekend, and I advised them to sit tight until the Board of Health has the testing done, and then we'll go from there. Because I wasn't certain if there were, say, for example, a mold problem. I wouldn't want us facilitating people moving files and potentially contaminating another town building. So I was very clear with the planning board that anything that happens down there needs to be under the strict guidance of the Board of Health. It's their project. That said, I believe that the Board of Health will be considering tomorrow at their meeting hiring a vendor or vendors to do some testing. So as far as our role in this, it's strictly cost-based, right? Like figuring out where we're going to find the available funds to facilitate it. So as far as today is concerned, I'm looking for the board to perhaps take a vote authorizing me to identify an applicable funding source once they come up with a quote for the testing that they feel needs to be done. And I thought maybe you'd want to set a not-to-exceed limit of $5,000, meaning if the quotes come back and they're over $5,000, we would reconvene and discuss the price and where we could pay it from. That seems to be a reasonable course of action to me.
Any comments, concerns from anybody out there?
I suppose I have a question. I recognize you're going to pursue this, but any preliminary idea of what might be funding sources, potential funding sources?
We have our town building maintenance article. That would be probably the most applicable funding source. We do have a smaller budget line for townhouse and town building related repairs, but if the cost is $5,000, that's going to take up pretty much that entire budget line. That's for small scale stuff.
And the
like if-
first one, how much is in that? Do you?
We replenished that, I think, with like 40,000 back at town meeting. I don't have a current printout from the town accountant, but that's a substantial fund. That's for what we utilize if we have like a large scale issue that comes up unforeseen. So those are what we have in mind currently.
Any further discussion? Mr. Alberti?
We can back up to the old townhouse. I have questions for the team that can help out with who's responsible for that building, that property. Well, the property's town property, but is the building town properties, commissions, issues, or not?
In regards to the stumps?
No, in regards to the building, the shed that's there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Generally speaking, like if heating systems and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it's part of the
Roofing.
structures that are on that site. The concern is the building, and we use it for garden club storage, and there's maybe some historical issues in there that they deal with, storage issue. But it's a mess, it's falling apart, windows are broken, things taking a hit.
The shed, right?
Shed you're talking about.
The
Okay.
building, when I'm talking about the 60,000 door. Good. It's near it, the little one.
The shed was in bad shape. Rob Furlot and I went all around the property, all throughout the building. The shed does look like it's in bad shape.
Yeah, a lot of trash behind it too. The point is, there's a fellow in town that's interested in that building. If we decide to get rid of it, he's willing to bring his machinery down there, lift it off the ground, put it on a flatbed, make it go away for nothing, just to get it's gonna make a chicken coop out of it. And I understand his need, and I think it's a great way to get rid of that building. As far as all the contents, which isn't much at all, if we find a storage place for it, but there's a lot of trash about the building, barrels and planting containers and unused items that probably should end up recycled.
Okay. So maybe a good course of action would be for us to put this on an upcoming Board of Selectmen's agenda to identify that shed potentially as surplus property. The board could consider it, deliberate at that point, and then if they vote to do that, we could authorize the garden club to have this individual come and dispose of it. As far as removing like trash or recyclables, I'm sure we could work with our highway department to figure something out. It's town property.
That would also facilitate a safer and easier job if you're gonna take down those stumps. And there's also 2 trees, if you look at that shed and look up, there's some ash trees. They look like ash, and they're tall and they're dead. Probably close to 80 feet, I would say. And they're not bent in any particular direction, but they could come down. And I'm not sure if they're on the back 5 acres private property on our town property, by looking at the,
Yeah, there's not much space between the back of the building and the back
yeah,
property
on the
line.
property line. There's a wall there, I think. But, yeah, it looks like it might be on.
I know it's pretty
adjacent
close.
property. Okay, thank you.
Everything on the trees that have to go to Bill
I'll
Hayes also.
send that to
Give
Bill
him a heads up
Hayes,
on that.
and I'll also send a copy. We had the property surveyed
Yeah.
not long ago, so we
Property
can,
boundary along that side.
we have that in a plan, and they did put out some visible stakes and some like PK nails, so.
All right. Nothing further? All right, I make a motion to authorize the town administrator to find an applicable funding source once a quote for vendors from the Board of Health to provide the necessary testing services is provided. And the amount is not to exceed $5,000 without additional discussion and authorization of the Board of Selectmen. Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the appointment of Molly Hutt Wardell to the Conservation Commission from this date, September 8th, until June 30th of 2027. Any discussion? All right, make a motion to appoint Molly Hutt Wardell to the Conservation Commission effective September 8th, 2025 through June 30th, 2027. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I make one comment?
Yes, sir.
So this seat, which was held by Linda Letty for, I'm not quite sure how long, many, many years, the work that Linda did kind of turned it into a full-time job, but the preservation of several hundred acres in 3 different parks or conservation areas, largely led by Linda along the way. So looking forward to Molly taking that seat. She has huge, huge, huge shoes to fill. And glad she's coming on. I've heard good things. Losing Linda is actually a big loss for the town. It's one of many areas in this town right now where we need to be grooming and bringing a whole new generation of people into this. But a lot of good things happen in this town because of Linda Letty.
Well said. Thank you, Mr. Russo. Okay, next moment on our agenda is going to be review and adoption of the student activity account guidelines.
So the document that was sent out to you was put together by Christine Kelly, our treasurer collector. She did confer with Silver Lake and the folks at Dennett prior to sending it out. And this is being done at our auditor's recommendation. It's one of the things that he was bringing up each year in his management letter. That having a document that clearly delineates roles, responsibilities, and what exactly happens with any of those student activity accounts, what the chain is, how it all passes through. That was his main recommendation for multiple years. So it would be good to get this adopted and on the books.
So we've never had one prior to this?
So Silver Lake actually did have one, but it was not as robust as this. When the treasurer initially reached out to Silver Lake, and this is going back probably 2 years ago, she was told no, they did not have anything on the books. So she put a ton of time into this. I have to give her a lot of credit. She was surveying other communities, what they did for this sort of thing, and she put together a very comprehensive set of guidelines based on what different schools in different communities were doing. And then we found out, and then again, she had sent it back to them asking for comments. And they said they didn't have any comments, that what she put together was wonderful because they didn't have anything. And then about a week or two ago, we got an email from the superintendent's office that said, oh, here are our guidelines. But so a lot of time went into this and a lot of reinventing of the wheel, but we have a very robust document now that the treasurer is very proud of.
Excellent. Further discussion? Either sides? Yeah, make a motion to adopt the student activity account guidelines as proposed by the treasurer collector. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we turn to brief for the warrants paid.
$9,711.96. That is, so we've been paying Oh Dear, which is my monthly, and then we have Girl Scoopers, some Amazon Business for some supplies, Eversource Gas included, and then just good old Eversource. Is even the program, yeah, and then some RKP, which was like half of it. Okay.
Questions, discussion? All
I got a quick question. I heard oh dear. Where do they spray?
The
whole
field back
field.
here and
I didn't know they do it.
Harry Jason.
Okay, thank you.
And that'll be the same for the
Glad to
ghost
hear.
scooper too, correct? For both?
Yes, yes. They have like a maintenance schedule
Right.
that they do.
So the recreation department is taking care of, oh dear. But I submit the warrant, it's easier. Comes in my email, so I can just print it out from there.
I didn't know they sprayed, not just.
Start in March, before the spring season, and they'll end in November.
And especially now that we have night games. So, you know, they're at dusk and so forth with the lights out there, so. All right, anything else? Okay, we're on to the 15 one-day liquor license applications for Sawchuck Farm Corn Maze for the Stellwagen Beer Company, Marshfield.
So they apply for this annually, and they always get a police detail. They do possess all of the required certifications, and we've never had any issues in the past dealing with them. They're very good to communicate with. So if you do grant the 15 one-day liquor licenses, I would just suggest that you do specifically state the condition that there shall be a police detail for all of the dates and times that they're going to be serving. But they're very cooperative with doing that anyway, and they coordinate directly with the police department.
Okay. Further discussion, concerns? Okay. Propose a motion to approve the 15 one-day liquor licenses and applications for the Stellwagen Beer Company at Sawchuck Farm Corn Maze with the condition that there shall be a police detail for all of the dates and times. I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have the minutes from 8/18, so August 18th. Any discussion on the minutes? Nothing from you, Mark?
No, good.
Okay, excellent. And make a motion to approve the minutes from August 18th, 2025 as written. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
So I do have a few things in correspondence. Let me see here. So first, as part of my general update and correspondence, I had drafted a letter for us to send to the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding the proposed 40B development to be located off of Spring Street. If you've had a chance to read that, and if you don't have any edits, I was just asking that you please sign it today so that I can forward that along. Essentially, I reiterated our comments that we had made a while back before the project was filed with the zoning board. Initially, we had an opportunity to comment when it was first before mass housing. So majority of the comments haven't changed. Obviously, we have, fire suppression concerns. We have concerns about water quality, groundwater impacts, potential impacts to the school district, when considering the potential cost for an addition to that building if it was ever needed. We also, again, referenced the fact that we were disappointed to learn that there are no affordable units planned that would be specifically designated as age-restricted. At the time when they were before mass housing, we had approached them with that, and they said that it puts too much restriction on them, that a lot of people in the over 55 category would not meet the income requirements to qualify for the affordable units. So they were not in favor of doing that. But I think it's still something that's important and that we want to go on record with. we do have a problem in this town with people aging out, and then there's no affordable options for them to stay put in the town that they've lived in all their lives. So I think that this could be great if they would entertain it, even if it were a small number of the affordable units. And at the very least, I do think we need to keep it on the table that we want a local preference. And then obviously over 55 people could, maybe they get in there on the local preference.
So a couple comments. I'm really glad that the sentence that you started, we do have a problem in this town with people aging, and thank God there was more to that sentence than stopping right
Yeah,
there.
that's not a problem. You want,
Big problem, big.
no, you want to continue to age,
But
opposed
my
to
other
meeting an early demise.
That letter, I think, is Liz at her best. It's crisp and clear, hits all the points clearly and succinctly. That's a real good letter. Thank you.
And that's going to ZBA?
ZBA.
And my understanding is other boards and committees and departments have been also asked to provide comment?
Yes.
Because I know at the recent ZBA meeting, the
They
developer was
hadn't.
saying that basically all prior comments were now null and void because they had.
Right, and that was very alarming for us. So we promptly reached out to everybody and said, we need you to re-review the plans. The plans really hadn't changed.
But they were pretty clear that they figured.
They weren't going
They
to
thought they were
count any
scot-free.
of the comments.
Thank you.
Now they know they need to.
Good,
So everybody's working on it and
thank you.
moving forward. So there's that. Let's see here.
Vote on that?
I mean, it's correspondence. You can, yeah. Why don't you? Yeah, why don't you while you're here? If you want to make a motion to endorse the letter regarding the 40B.
Okay, let me get a motion to endorse the letter as written in regard to the 40B.
Second.
Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have some resignation letters here. These are from, so we have Linda Letty resigning from the Conservation Commission. We have letters of resignation from Ross McPherson from the Town Properties Committee, from John Williamson from the Town Properties Committee and the Plympton Historical Commission, and today from Mark Wallace, also from the Town Properties Committee. So obviously these contributions will be sorely missed.
Maybe my comments about Linda probably go for all those people, and I to some extent think that it's kind of a bit of a crisis right now in town government to be losing all those people. So we talk about it all the time, but boy, do we need to be recruiting. And there's a lot to protect in this town, and it's those kind of people that do the protection.
Also, in a similar vein, we were told that Dottie Martell, we had named her as our representative to Old Colony Elder Services. She's taking a leave of absence from everything Council on Aging related currently. So she hopes to be back in the future. In the meantime, they were requesting that the board name Debbie Batson to fill that void with that group until Dottie is back in action. I just got the appointment request today. It's not an official town position, so I don't think we have to sign the appointment slip, but I think it would be good if you would take a vote just naming Deborah Batson to serve as Plympton's representative to Old Colony Elder Services until the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. I was gonna say, do we want to word it as interim or anything like that, or?
Maybe, yeah, let's do interim so that Dottie, if she wants to come back.
All right. Make a motion to appoint Debbie Batson as interim delegate to the Old Colony Elder Services.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then we have,
Can we go back to my resignation for a second?
yes,
Am I allowed to?
You're reconsidering?
No. Very disappointed in the comments and the support that we were given as a town properties committee. And I don't feel that we were, excuse me, sorry about that we were, we did a lot of hard work, and I don't think it was appreciated. I've given a lot of my career to this town, 30 years on the fire department, building committee for the library, and town properties committee. And I think the town really needs to address keeping abreast of what the committees are doing. You know, we recorded the meeting on Monday, which is great. Sorry about that. But I think, you know, the town and everybody sitting up there needs to support these committees in town. The other thing is, I'd like to know how we go about getting on the agenda for a meeting. I watched your meeting, I think it was last week, when you were discussing the front door of the town hall. And I don't see it on the agenda here, so I'd like to know where that's going, if I could, as a citizen, not as a committee member. Because that was voted by town meeting, and I don't really understand how the selectmen can overrule what was voted for at the town
We did.
meeting. So maybe you can explain that.
Yeah, we didn't overrule. We voted to support the project because it was voted upon by town meeting and went through the proper procedures. It went through the CPA committee first and then went to town meeting. We recognized that the town spoke and supported the project. I know I myself was a little embarrassed that I didn't really pay attention to noticing that it was a $60,000, but I also, I thought, took care to mention that I felt that the process had played out the way it was supposed to play out, and we needed to support that and recognize that. But
Because my understanding was that you went back to, you asked town properties to review it.
we asked town properties to be mindful of the fact that we were concerned about the price tag, but we also recognized that the process had played out appropriately and we were supporting the project. So I apologize if there's any
Then I
confusion.
apologize.
No, no worries.
I misunderstood that or whatever, but my understanding was that you asked the committee, and that's what the committee was, understanding was, that we were supposed to review it and revisit it.
no, it was just like Nate said, it was a very simple email to the chairman, well, former chair of the Town Properties Committee, just saying that we had discussed the project and could they please be mindful of the cost associated with it.
Okay.
If I can speak toward the number of resignations from that committee, I really feel strongly, and I don't know that maybe this exists, that when you have resignations come in, that you make an attempt to talk to those people who are resigning and find out what has prompted that resignation, because to have that many people from a committee resign at the same time is that siren, you know, there's something going on that's, that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
It's very unfortunate. Being the wife of someone on that committee, realizing the amount of time and effort and energy that goes into looking out for the interests of town property, and having just, there's a constant negative feedback that really is demoralizing to the people that are actively trying to make things better. And I think that's what you see with this particular, excuse me, at this particular time. It's a real problem.
Well, thank you for your comments, and I appreciate them, and I'm going to answer both situations as best and as succinctly as I can. First and foremost, as Mr. Sides very, very well spoken and said it exactly correct, what it was the TPC falls under the Board of Selectmen in our oversight. So in the case of that, looking at these costs and the concerns and so forth, that is what was being looked at and for further review and to be looked at in that way. Because there are many, many of the people in this town that are very much concerned about the tax burden that's being put upon them right now. And that's where these questions are coming from. Because as I stated in the last meeting, all you need to do is drive around town and look at all the for sale signs. And it hits me the worst with what Ms. Dennehy said in regards to the fact of the older folk who are here, who have supported this town all the way through, albeit by volunteerism, by supporting through their tax dollars, to do things like bringing one of our first, A1 ambulances online and so forth, to get us the services that we have. So exploring different options, I try to look at solutions, not problems, because it's very easy to point a finger and find a problem in anything. One of the things that I've experienced, and I can go to my colleague who has the tenure beyond me, is that over the years that I have been here now, because it's been over a year, communication and lack thereof between the community not understanding what these projects are. I see things as a great stride by putting these meetings out there. As Mr. Wallace just stated, we had the TPC meeting actually videotaped. Now people can see that. I know I fought it, as was mentioned earlier, as the SRO and so forth. It's a two-edged sword with social media. However, it's the 21st century, and that's where a lot of people are getting the information. And in a previous meeting that I had with the chair of the TPC, I pointed out that there was an argument prior to that about not putting things out on social media. I don't want to debate it on social media. And then when it went to the days between the actual town meeting and the election, it was all debated on social media. And that was really not the forum to do it in. Had it been addressed beforehand and maybe people had access to the videotaped recordings and so forth in the meetings, I think we may have had a little bit better outcome and a better understanding. And I think that's one of the failings of this in that respect, is that not everybody can make it to those meetings. Let's go back to the tax burden. If somebody's working 2 and 3 jobs, they can't make it to the meetings they're going to make it to.
Can't make it to the meeting in the middle of the day either.
Right. So there is no perfect time. In fact, actually, we used to have coffee hours for DARE, and Principal Venito and I actually spoke a lot about that. Well, what time do we do it? No matter what time you put that meeting at, it's not going to matter. However, if you get it into a place where you can sit there and you can watch it at any time you want, like I've jokingly said, if you have an insomnia, then you know what? Put on the Selectmen's meeting. That'll put you to sleep. But basically, any of those meetings, if now it's accessible in another date, and you can revisit it when something else comes up, oh, wait a second, in that meeting they talked about this. Now you can see it again, as opposed to necessarily being there in person.
I've lived in Plympton for almost 50 years. Communication has been a problem from day one. It's very hard to get the word out. Having Zoom meetings, having the videos that we can watch later, I avail myself of that. I still think that we can do better, and I think that sometimes we use communication problems as an excuse not to do better. It's easier sometimes to say, well, nobody comes no matter what we do, but there's still a problem that needs to be addressed. And being able to watch a video of a meeting is all well and good, but that meeting has already happened. The votes have already been taken. The issues are not necessarily out in the community. I don't know how. I mean, it seems like a huge task, but it's not something that we can use to remove ourselves from the problem or make excuses for things that have happened. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Wallace?
Have you ever considered, I mean, when we first moved to town, Monday night, selectmen's meeting, every Monday night at 7 o'clock, everybody could get there. Have you considered doing, like one night a week, a month, and maybe another, I don't know, you meet every week or every 2 weeks?
Twice a month.
Alternating between doing evening ones, so it opens it up to more people. Because, to say that people have to, I used to work 4:30 in the morning, I'd leave for work, so I wasn't in any shape to come at night, but if it was something important I needed to discuss, I could come at night. No chance I could come during the day. I'm retired now, so I can, but there's an awful lot of people in this town that can't come during the day. So maybe do an alternate,
It's definitely something that we're open to discuss. But my other part of it is, well, when we think of it, we're not looking at it as a standalone meeting, that if people are interested in the issues and they start getting interested in them and they have the access to those meetings, let's just say for the people who can't make it, no matter what time you make the meeting, those people could start to see those meetings, and at that point now I can get involved. Now I'm interested. Oh, okay, in this last meeting, they said this, this, and this. Oh, that raises questions, and maybe they will be more willing to be involved. And I'm going to piggyback on Mr. Russo's comment. That's why we want to have people, actually like Ms. Smith out there, who just joined the TPC and had not been part of it. So we do see people getting more involved. We do see people showing up to some of these meetings. But I think if you have the meetings online and accessible to people where they can actually do it at any time, it gets their interest, and maybe they can start to get more involved because of that. What I've seen is, in a lot of cases, when it kind of played out this last year, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like as far as what happened with our fire station issue was a very hot button issue, and it basically, up until town meeting, there were discussions about certain things, but when it came to town meeting, people were there for that. That's when they got most of their information, was at the town meeting. And that's where things were kind of a breakdown in communication.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but, we put it out there, we had multiple meetings before we even went to town meeting. And it was approved at town meeting.
Yep, I remember.
It's just that it got into a firestorm between town meeting and the election. But regardless, I think it would be worthwhile to think about opening up meetings at different times so that more people do have the opportunity to attend. And I hope that you think about that. The other question, well, I guess that's
Mr. Russo?
So it seems like there are a lot of different issues on the table within this discussion. As recently leaving 15 years as chair of the Community Preservation Committee, I just want to make one point clear. We're talking about two very different processes in talking about the restoration of the door. That is a project funded by CPA dollars, as versus the fire station project. It's a totally different thing. Whether the door is a great project or not, it's not as much bang for the dollar as others, but I do want to make clear, like every single project we've done with CPC over the last 15 years, we went through a detailed, exacting process with lots of opportunity for input along the way. I just want to re-emphasize what I said at the last meeting. This idea of clawing back money or projects that have been approved that then are going to be reevaluated is a very, very dangerous precedent. It could go in a very different way along the way, even on the level that at this point, the consideration of looking at that project again or stopping the project, Town Council had a totally different opinion from the executive director of the Community Preservation Coalition. This is a quagmire to start with that we don't need to get into. And I just, to defend a little bit the door project, there's much more going on there than just doing a historical recreation of the door. There's a lot of influx of water. This may be part of the problem in the basement that's that's got to get dealt with. And I think if we find there are issues down there that are water related, the project on the door is something that's going to help along the way. Again, I just want to make clear the precedent of trying to torpedo a project that's already been improved by town meeting is really dangerous on a really big level, and people should be really cautious on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Further discussion? Comments?
How many people are on the TPC?
It's 5 seats.
So
5 seats.
Keelan's the only one right now?
And Colleen Thompson.
And Pierre Boyer.
Well, he
Joe
expressed
Collins.
interest. They haven't been appointed.
No, I gave Bree Pierre's name today. that
Right.
He's interested in joining.
Yeah, they'll have to be appointed at a future meeting.
And is forgetting it new, is it set at 5 or?
No,
is it
at
unlimited?
one time we had
If
7,
we haven't,
and then we had 2 people step down like around the same time, and then it went to 5. But it's just a group that was formed by the Board of Selectmen. So it's not like some of the other boards that are like statutory, that it like dictates
that's what
how
I
many
thought, I just wanted to
seats.
double check.
So it's whatever you decide.
Generally, they were trying to keep it to a maximum of 7.
Yeah, no, and I think, let's be realistic, we'd be fortunate to find 7.
Mr. Moran, you had a comment?
Yeah, there was never any limit on it. I was appointed to the first board, the Public Safety Building Committee. There was no limit.
Yeah.
So that's a misnomer. It was at the direction of the Board of Selectmen. It was that simple.
Thanks.
One other comment that I might have. When we were talking about the front door, and then there's some remediation around it, and that's good. I sit on the Board of Health. We're gonna have testing done downstairs. There's a moisture problem downstairs. There's a drainage problem downstairs. All that whole front of the building has to be taken into consideration at the same time. If you fix the door, you could have problems coming up from the bottom and more problems upstairs. So let's look at the big picture and find out what the problems are, solve the problems, so we don't have to do it again down the road in short order.
Well, I believe that the original scope of the project was 170,000, and that included a lot of the work that you're just talking about.
But not everything, Mark. That's the
No,
problem.
but there was a lot of it.
You know, you might have things that need remediation downstairs, which are outside of that scope.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm talking.
I'm saying, let's take a look at the big picture.
If I could, please. I'm talking that we looked at doing the front of the building to resolve some of the infiltration problems that there are with water. We looked at the drainage and some repointing of windows and stuff like that. That was the original 170,000 that we reduced to the door, which only, included the immediate door, some structural work, abatement, and it had some contingency as well. So it was a much bigger project originally. That's what we were asked to cut back.
Yeah, but I'm talking about being much more inclusive
Yep, it'd be
than,
much more expensive as
Anything.
well.
Yeah.
It'll cost a lot more than 60,000.
Further discussion?
Say something. I've kind of watched some of this play out on social media, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? I mean, it's
I'm sorry, can you
communication.
identify yourself? I'm not
I
familiar.
apologize. I'm Becky Archibald. I live at 20 Popes Farm. I'm on the Recreation Committee and also on the Library Trustees.
Thank you.
It's very disheartening when you're sitting on boards. I do a lot of stuff at the school too. You're a volunteer and, when things hash out on Facebook the way they did over the fire station, it can be very frustrating when you're giving your time and doing that work. So I don't know exactly what happened with town properties. I can probably understand that it's a feeling of an appreciation, I would say. Obviously, the communication is something that, you know, I know that you're working on, and I think we have to, in this day and age, have multiple lines of communication. I think things have to be put out publicly, and, you know, videoing the meetings is helpful. I don't know about timing as to when, but I don't know if there's I do agree that more people have to get involved, and how to do that, I don't have an answer for, and I don't generally like to speak unless I have an answer or something to contribute, but maybe we speak to some kind of a recruiter. I understand that these are unpaid positions, but how do a recruiter might have some insight as to how we can open up that scope and get more people involved, because I think that a lot of the people that do speak up on Facebook have no idea of what's actually going on. They don't take the time to educate themselves or look at the past and what led up to. And obviously we see that more clearly than anything with that fire station project and what happened there, but it happens with a lot of other things too. And they just watch one meeting or they just see one thing and think that they know a lot more, and it can be very hurtful to the people that have spent a lot of time on these things. So I don't know if that's something that we need to look at, is maybe speaking to somebody that can recruit and help us get more people involved.
I might just mention this. I think this discussion started on the basis of a citizen's comment and/or question. We're probably stretching a little on open meeting law. And if we certainly don't want to get to the place of deliberation, though these are all important points, and I hope they'll show up as we discuss them further in future meetings as agenda items that then opens it up for a full discussion.
I agree. Thank you, Mr. Russo. All right. Well, at this time.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I just have,
Right ahead.
if,
Absolutely.
I just wanted to, again, state for the record that I appreciated the fact that we received an update from the accountants this month on the expenditures to date, year to date. So I want to acknowledge that occurred based on my request at the last meeting, so thank you for that. However, I'm not satisfied. Only because I noticed that, there are a couple of departments that are spending ahead of schedule.
Correct.
And one of them is $130,000 ahead of schedule.
I have reached out to the
So
accountant
it's great to have
for
the information,
follow-up.
but rather than, certain departments, I think a line item breakdown would be nice.
Okay, we can definitely accommodate that.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Some of it is like a lot of invoices get front-loaded at the start of the fiscal year, and then like you've paid it, and then it's.
No, I understand that for the insurance lines and that sort of thing, but
But even
I
for
think
some
in-
of the departments, I think a
Okay.
breakdown would be helpful for you.
Yes, thank you.
We can do that.
Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Sides. It was all about for you, too. So, at this point, if there's no other further discussion, concerns, other issues, or otherwise, we'll be adjourning the open session to go into an executive session. We will not be returning to open session afterwards. The motion to adjourn open session will go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, re the town administrator. Roll call vote. Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Sides?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Yes. And we are adjourned.